Hello and welcome everyone, it's Karen. I'm so glad you're here today. I've got a mini flip slider card to share with you. And I've used these really cute little gnomes. They are from Paper Rose Studio. And I've used the Be Happy 12 by 12 collection for this card, I think entirely. So these are the gnomes that I chose. They're on that one piece of cardstock, so there's lots more to use on that piece of paper. I cut out this first little gnome and I traced around him onto white cardstock. I decided to back these because it is double-sided paper and I thought it would be less distracting just to have a white background. So there you go, I've traced around it. Now I cut these out two at a time just to save time and energy. So this is all I do. I just cut around it and I cut another piece of cardstock that will fit underneath. And I tack those two together with a low tack tape. And then I just cut through both layers of cardstock at once. So it didn't take long to cut out these little white images. And I did go around erasing pencil marks because they will show. Now these two little gnomes had the wings, and I was leaving a small white border around all of these images. And so I just did the same with these and I just cut those wings right off. Now, three of these gnomes had these antennae, and I was worried that they would get crumpled or tangled, so I'm reinforcing them. I've got a little strip of double-sided tape and a teeny tiny strip of acetate, and I just ran that between the two antennae just to strengthen that, and then I used glue all around and put the white backing on. So I'm just gluing this little guy down now. And I have glued all the other ones onto their white backing. So those antennae do stick out, but I think with that acetate, it just helps. I didn't have any problems with those tangling up at all. Okay, you may want to take a screenshot of this because this is the mechanism that will make these little gnomes flip and slide. It's basically a T. It's 5.5 inches long. Now I've got 5 gnomes, so if you want more or less, add another 1/4 of an inch for each extra one to either add it on or take it off, and add that to the total length as well as that fold line. So it's 2 1/4 inches wide. The tabs are 1/2 inch long, and then they go in 5/8 of an inch. And honestly, if you have this T ruler, that's all I did. So, yep, that middle is 1 inch wide and just as long as you need it to be. So I've cut that out. Now I do round those bottom ends, as you can see there. So I've got that in my scoreboard, and I'm creasing. The first one goes in at 1 1/4 inches, and then it's every 1/4 of an inch after that. And each of those segments is required for 1 gnome. So now that's good for 2 gnomes. That's the third. I had to count these after I had gone on. I wasn't sure how far I was going, but you'll see. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, need 1 more line. So that's the sideways scoring. Now for the tabs, you don't want it to be so tight that the long part of the T can't roll through. So I line it up with the score line, and I just go straight up across. So you don't want it to be narrower than the width of that long stem part, is I think what I'm trying to say. So those tabs will fold under, and then that whole T section is going to roll through that tab. So I'm doing a mountain fold for all of those little creases or score lines that I made, and I'm using a bone folder to reinforce that. So they're all going to go in exactly the same direction. They're all mountain folds. So here's how it works. So I've creased them all now, and those tabs will fold under. The tabs attached to the card front, and then you just pull that tab through. It looks impossible, I know, but it works, and it's so much fun. And you can decorate that part of the tab. I did decorate mine, but a bit belatedly, so you'll see that. Now you can orient this whichever way you want. You could have it coming down, you could going sideways to the right, to the left, you could go from the bottom, it doesn't matter. But when you place these little gnomes on, they're only going to stick onto those little 1/4 inch tabs. So I'm just getting the sequence of my gnomes the way I want them to go. You can see there I've written the word pull. And now each of these gnomes will stick between those two little lines. So the first one is going to go in that first section between those first two creases. And all you're doing is gluing that little teeny tiny corner of that gnome down. So be careful you don't put too much glue on. It cannot go past those two crease lines. And I know this looks impossible, but it always works. And I've played with it no end of times. They don't go flying off. I'm always expecting that, but they don't. So just a teeny little bit of glue onto those between each of those little folds. And you can see how that works there. So I've got them all on now. I always find at the beginning, they don't open up incredibly well, especially those first two. So I go along and I reinforce the folds. I just open them up and make sure there's no glue or anything that's keeping them stuck together. And then after that, it goes really well. And it's so much fun, honestly. Okay, so for the card fronts, I've taken this off that one piece of 12 by 12 paper. I just thought that was super easy, but it's just perfect. And it's 5 by 7 inches. So I have created a card. I cut one that was 5 by 7 inches and the other was 5 by 7¼ inches, and made a fold line and just stuck the little tab down on the inside. So here I'm gluing my card front to the card base. Now I went above and beyond for this. I did that Happy Bee Day. Now I combined those two dies. I took the two E's from Celebrate and added it to the B and Day and Birthday. And I stacked those up. So I did that a number of times, guys. So I think Birthday would work just fine. But I just wanted to let you know that's how I did it. Now there's that Happy. I took that from the bottom of those papers. It was just perfect. And just cut it out, and it's a Happy Bee Day. Now here is another little strip from the bottom of those papers. I just thought these were really pretty, so I'm just putting that along the side, and I trimmed that one down. Okay, so to attach this mini flip slider, I'm putting double-sided tape on both of these two tabs. And just because I get so nervous, I also put glue on. So I've removed the release paper and I'm adding glue to these two tabs. Now you don't want to get any glue on the flip slider itself, which I did. So just make sure there's nothing on there that's going to stick that down. And then it's a little awkward, but you're going to turn it. Oh, and now you're going to see my bees that I did add on belatedly. And I'm going to show you what I had to do with these bees in a minute here. So fold it under, so that tab has to be going, or the long part of the T has to be going through the little tab. So it's all glued, and I'm just sticking it. Now I did measure this with an envelope, so you might want to check on yours that it will fit into an envelope. So I knew I could go about this far over without going past my envelope size. So I'm sticking that down. And I put this under some blocks for a little bit just to really let that dry. Now those bees I fussy cut from one of the papers. And you can see it's kind of impeding the flow, so that's my solution. I put a little piece of Scotch tape on it and it works perfectly now. However, I wished I had figured that out before, because I wouldn't have it looks more like a Band-Aid on there with that little piece of tape. So if I'd figured that out earlier, I could have taped up the whole piece, but I didn't. So I fussy cut a few more of those bees from one of those other 12 by 12 papers. Just put them around because it is a bee day. And there you go. So it's super fun to pull that. I don't know what it is about these flip sliders, but they're just so intriguing. So I've also measured it. There's that envelope I was telling you about. So it will fit in there. And I'm just going to show you the other card I did do. This was in my last video, so just to give you a little more inspiration. Thank you so very much for joining me, everyone. I hope that's given you some ideas. Have a great day.